Susan. Absolutely delighted to be speaking to you today. Now today we're going to be looking at castles. We've got two options today. You can either draw a castle and colour it in perhaps, maybe even paint it, or if you have a little bit more time, you can make yourself a 3D castle. So here's option one. I'm starting with a large rectangle with a thin rectangle on top. This small protective wall around the top is called a parapet. If the castle was under attack, it gave an area to shoot arrows from and to hide behind. Castle windows were very narrow. This again was to make it really difficult for an attacker to aim an arrow into the castle. At the front here we have a portcullis. This is like a gate that comes down from inside the castle and would be very hard to break through. I've added a moat and a drawbridge and a little view into the dungeons. I've added two little eyes, not to mention the crocodile. I've added two turrets, a kind of tower, again with little thin windows. So that's one way we can draw a castle. The second way we can draw a castle, based around a tall, thin tower. Now we'd make this kind of castle so that we could see for miles and miles around. Again, a fortified door, a very strong door at the bottom to make sure that nobody could get in. This time I'm drawing a little background so you get the idea of where this castle might be. Now I'm doing this really quickly, but you can take your time and do the best drawing that you can do. I'm adding some small turrets onto the sides of my castle. One lower and one slightly higher. Now when we're drawing a stone building like this, we can add lots of little details in to make it look a bit more realistic. See how these windows start off quite long and get smaller as they go up. This helps the castle to look tall, gives us what we call perspective. I'm adding a few blocks of stone. Perhaps this is a granite castle. We don't need to draw all of these in. Drawing a few in key areas helps us to understand that it's made out of stone. Now here's option two. You will need a kitchen roll tube and perhaps a couple of toilet rolls. If you have some, save a few. And some kitchen roll. You can use newspaper. I quite like kitchen roll for this because it gives a nice texture. Some masking tape and some scissors. Now you could use sellotape, but it's a little harder to do paper mache on. Here I'm cutting a line straight up through the toilet roll and I'm winding it in to make a smaller, thinner tube. I'm securing it with a little bit of masking tape. Now it doesn't need to be perfect, but I'm just tucking in the tab, the bottom and the top to help keep it secure, and I'm cutting a little slit into the bottom. This is going to help it fit to my castle. So I've folded in one corner and I'm folding over the other corner so that it comes to a point. This is a little tricky and you might need a help to do this. So I'm just going to show you again so you confidently what you are doing. So you're going to tuck one corner in and the other corner over and you're going to tape it to secure it. We're going to do that twice. So I've got one turret, I'm just masking taping onto the side. It'll be much more secure once we get onto our paper mache, and one lower. Adding some extra tape to keep that nice and secure. Now, one of my other toilet roll tubes, you could just use a piece of card or a piece of paper. I've cut it in half and I'm going to make the little roof, the little cone shape that goes on top of the towers. So again, I'm rolling it into a point. I'm holding it and twisting it. You might need a little help for this. And I'm getting a bit of masking tape and taping it into place. And we're just going to trim those corners off so that it's nice and flat at the bottom there. And looks a little bit like an ice cream cone. So that's one done and taped into place. And it's time to do the other two. So again, toilet roll tube is fine for this side, pinching and twirling, cutting round just the same as I did before. And for the big one this time, I've drawn round my pen pot. I'm cutting it out, do a little cut into the middle, and this is so much easier. There you go, taping it on to be secure. And I'm mixing some PVA glue. It doesn't have to be expensive. I bought this one from Poundland. If you have some leftover wallpaper paste, you can use that. I've added some water and I'm stirring it. It's a nice runny liquid. I've ripped up my paper towels into sections and I'm wetting with the mixture, brushing off any excess onto the side of my glue pot, and I'm smoothing it all over my castle. Don't worry about any little wrinkly bits. In fact, that's going to make our castle look nice and aged and like it's been in a few battles. I'm just pinching it in the areas to make sure that we can still see the bottom of the turrets, how that leads into our main tower, and we get the definition. And I've just made a small path up to my castle, maybe a little bit inspired by Udny Green Castle. I'm really running out of white paint there. I've mixed up this grey colour. I'm just covering the whole of my castle just now. I can go back in to add in the detail. I've done the path. And I'm adding grass all the way around mine. To add a bit more detail, I've used a lighter colour of green and just stippled it on with my brush. Now it's time to add the detail. You could do this once it's dried with a Sharpie or a kind of permanent marker pen. I was feeling like doing a little bit more painting today. And just some finishing touches. Again, I'm using a few blocks of stone, not painting every single stone in the castle, and it just gives the impression. adding detail to the path to make it look textured. And I'm adding some vines crawling up the tower. As always, upload what you've created today to the online classroom, and I can't wait to see what you've created.